Today we're looking at the magical cup or chalice, and this represents the understanding of the magician. How do you use the cup or the chalice in magic? What does it represent in the occult philosophy? Today we continue our readings. Today we are reading Book 4 or Liber on Magick, and today we are looking at Part 2. And in particular, we are going to be reading the chapter on the cup or chalice. Chapter 7, the cup. So we're getting some of these readings done. And I really appreciate all of you for tuning in. It's really fun to go through these together. So we're more or less studying together. So here we go. Chapter 7, the cup. As the magic wand is the will, the wisdom, the word of the magician, so is the magic cup his understanding. This is the cup of which it was written, Father, if it be thy will, let this cup pass from me. And again, can you drink of the cup that I drink of? And also the cup in the hand of Our Lady Babylon, and the cup of the sacrament. This cup is full of bitterness, and of blood, and of intoxication. The understanding of the magus is his link with the invisible on the passive side. His will errs actively by opposing itself to the universal will. His understanding errs passively when it receives influence from that which is not the ultimate truth. In the beginning, the cup of the student is almost empty. The understanding. In the beginning, the cup of the student is almost empty, and even such truth as he or she receives may leak away and be lost. They say that the Venetians made glasses which change color if poison was put into them. They say the Venetians made glasses, like drinking glasses, that which change color, which is a cup, which change color if poison was put into them. Of such a glass or cup, must the cup make his cup? Must the student make his cup? So they say the Venetians made glasses which change colors if poison was put into them. Of such glass must the student make his cup. Very little experience on the mystic path will show him that of all the impressions he receives, none is true. Either they are false in themselves, or they are wrongly interpreted in the mind. There is one truth and only one. All other thoughts are false. And as he advances in the knowledge of his mind, he will come to understand that its whole structure is so faulty that it is quite incapable, even in its most exalted moods, of truth. The mind is incapable of truth. He will recognize that any thought merely establishes a relation between the ego and the non-ego. Kant has shown that even the laws of nature are but the conditions of thought, and as the current of thought is the blood of the mind, it is said that the magic cup is filled with the blood of the saints. All thought must be offered up as a sacrifice, a libation. The cup can hardly be described as a weapon. It is round like the pantacle, not straight like the wand and the dagger. Reception, not projection, is its nature, so the cup receives. The footnote says, as the magician is in the position of God towards the spirit that he evokes, he stands in the circle, and the spirit in the triangle, so the magician is in the triangle with respect to his own God, or the holy guardian angel. On to the next page. So that which is round, the shape roundness, so that which is round to him is to him a symbol of the influence from the higher. This circle symbolizes the infinite. So the circle is the infinite. And he's talking about the roundness of a drinking vessel. This circle, because we're getting into the esoteric philosophy here, the cup, the roundness, the circular structure of the cup. This is how much we're analyzing the magician's tools, even to the roundness of the structure of the cup of magic. This circle symbolizes the infinite, as every cross or tau represents the finite. That which is foursquare shows the finite fixed into itself. For this reason, the altar is foursquare. It is the solid basis from which all operation proceeds. One form of the magical cup has a sphere beneath the bowl and is supported upon a conical base. So there's one version of the magical cup that has a cone with a sphere, and then the bowl. The footnote says an ugly form. A better is given in the illustration. Actually, let's jump ahead to the illustration. Where's the illustration here? So the illustration, it says, page 61. Here we go. Let's take a look at this illustration here while we're at it. Here we go. So, the magical cup. Interesting. So, and then we're going to get back to the text, but I just wanted to show you this right here. And I'm going to give a link for those that want to buy a copy. So, this is what it's calling the cup. So, here's the wand, the pentacle, the sword, and the cup. By the way, can anyone find these four tools before the Golden Dawn and a lot of the magic of the 1800s? Of course, you have Levy and the Hermetic Order. You have before the whole Hermetic Order, the Golden Dawn, you have Levy and stuff. But where does this all come from? Some would argue that, like, if you look in the Key of Solomon, you don't see these four tools. That actually, from the tarot through the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, basing so much on the tarot, that through the tarot, we actually developed these four, thinking of things in terms of these four elemental tools, that there is a backward influence back upon magic. But anyways, we're going into occult history with the Hermetic Order, the Golden Dawn, and Levy in the 1800s. I'm just pointing out that if you look in like the Key of Solomon, you don't see four elemental weapons like this. But anyways, back to this. So, going way off here. So, this cup, crescent, sphere, and cone, represents the three principles of the moon, the sun, and fire. The three principles which, according to the Hindus, have course in the body. So you have the sun, the moon, and fire, which I guess partakes of both natures. The footnote says these principles are seen by the pupil when first he succeeds in stilling his mind, or her mind. That one which happens to be in course at the moment is the one seen by him. This is so marvelous an experience, even for one who has pushed astral visions to a very high point, that he may mistake them for the end, or the goal, the spiritual goal. So this is such a lofty vision that many people mistake it for the goal. See the chapter on Dhyana. The Hebrew letters corresponding to these principles are Gimel, Resh, and Shin, and the word formed by them is flower, and also expelled, cast forth. Gimel, Resh, and Shin. So, this is the cup of purification. As Zoroaster says, so therefore first the priest who governeth the works of fire must sprinkle with the water of the loud resounding sea. It is the sea that purifies the world, and the great sea is in the Kabbalah a name of Binah, the understanding. It is by the understanding in the cup, and also the yoni, or the female, the vagina, the womb, basically, the receptive. So the cup is the vagina at a certain level of, look at it like sex. But anyways, back to this. It is and Binah is the great mother. I'm going to stop interjecting here and stick to the text. It is the sea that purifies the world, and the great sea is in the Kabbalah a name of Binah, or understanding. Binah, moreover, someone put a really sweet comment. Let's see here. Sophia says, this is an awesome information, dude. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm really enjoying this content. Thank you so much for leaving a sweet comment. on my live show thing I've got here, my Facebook Live. Thank you very much for your comment. I appreciate it. So today we're talking about the magical cup, which is the female principle, and in the Kabbalah it's Binah, and the cup, the magical cup. What does the cup symbolize? So the wand is the will. What is the cup? It's the understanding. Okay? So back to this. Thank you so much. What a sweet comment. It is by the understanding of the Magus that his work is purified. Binah, moreover, is the moon, and the bowl of this cup is shaped like the moon. This moon is the path of Gimel, through which the influence from the crown descends upon the son of Tiferet. And this is based upon the pyramid of fire, which symbolizes the aspiration of the student. In Hindu symbolism, the Amrita, or dew of immortality, drips constantly upon a man, but is burnt up by the gross fire of his appetites. So in the Hindu system, Amrita, the dew of immortality, that would give us immortality. Not saying we have to literally believe. Anyways, back to in Hindu symbolism, the Amrita, or dew of immortality, drips constantly upon a man, but is burnt up by the gross fire of his appetites. Yogis attempt to catch and so preserve this dew by turning back the tongue in the mouth. Concerning the water in this cup, it may be said, just as the wand should be perfectly rigid, the ideal solid, so the water should be the ideal fluid. The wand is erect and must extend to infinity. The surface of the water is flat and must extend to infinity. One is the line, the other is the plane. And it's also talking about masculine and feminine principles here. But as the wand is weak without breadth, so is the water false without depth. The understanding of the Magus must include all things, and that understanding must be infinitely profound. H.G. Wells has said that every word of which a man is ignorant represents an idea of which he is ignorant, and it is impossible perfectly to understand all things unless all things be first known. Understanding is the structuralization of knowledge. It gives form to the knowledge in the same way that Binah gives form or structure, or Saturn actually gives form and structure. So understanding is the structuralization of knowledge. All impressions are disconnected, as the babe of the abyss is so terribly aware, and the master of the temple must sit for 106 seasons in the city of the pyramids, because this coordination is a tremendous task. There is nothing particularly occult in this doctrine concerning knowledge and understanding. A looking glass receives all impressions but coordinates none. The savage has none but the most simple associations of ideas. Oh, I hate when he writes like this, and then I have to read it. But okay, even the ordinary civilized man goes very little further. All advance in thought, but I'm just reading the book. All advance in thought is made by collecting the greatest possible number of facts, classifying them and grouping them. The philologist, though perhaps he only speaks one language, has a much higher type of mind than the linguist who speaks 20 languages, because he knows how to classify. So, this tree of thought is exactly parallel by the tree of nervous structure, or think of all the nerves in the body as like branches of a great tree. This tree of thought is exactly parallel by the tree of nervous structure. Very many people go about nowadays who are exceedingly well informed, but who have not the slightest idea of the meaning of the facts they know. They have not developed the necessary higher part of the brain. Induction is impossible to them. This capacity for storing away facts is compatible with actual imbecility. I'm sorry. Like just storing away facts, but there's no depth. It's just storing information. I'm sorry, y'all. That just cracked me up. God, come on now. Let's see here. Very many people go about nowadays who are exceedingly well informed, but who have not the slightest idea of the meaning of the facts they know. They have not developed the necessary higher part of the brain. Induction is impossible to them. The understanding. This capacity for storing away facts is compatible with actual imbecility. Some imbeciles have been able to store their memories with more knowledge than perhaps any sane man could hope to acquire. Batting figures or whatever. This is the great fault of modern education. A child is stuffed with facts. This is the great fault of modern education. A child is stuffed with facts, and no attempt is made to explain their connection and bearing in life. The result is that even the facts themselves are soon forgotten, because it's not made real with direct experience. Any first-rate mind is insulted and irritated by such treatment, and any first-rate memory is in danger of being spoilt by it, by our education system. No two ideas have any real meaning until they are harmonized in a third, and the operation is only perfect when these ideas are contradictory. Balance every thought with its opposite. Their union is the destruction of illusion. This is the essence of the Hegelian logic. The magic cup, as was shown above, is also the flower. So the cup and the female principle and the understanding of Binah, the mother, and the flower. So the magic cup, as was shown above, is also the flower. It is the lotus which opens to the sun, S-U-N, and which collects the dew. This lotus, let me read that again. The magic cup, as was shown above, is also the flower. It is the lotus which opens to the sun, and which collects the dew. This lotus is in the hand of Isis, the great mother. It is a symbol similar to the cup in the hand of Our Lady Babylon. There are also the lotuses in the human body, the chakras. According to Hindu system of physiology referred to in the chapter on Dharana. The footnote. These lotuses, which are like cups that collect energy in the energy system, these could be seen as like magical cups. Okay, these lotuses are all situated in the spinal column, which has 3 channels, the Sushumna in the middle, Ida and Pingala on either side. The central channel is compressed at the base by Kundalini, the magical power, a sleeping serpent. Awake her. She darts up the spine, and the prana flows through the Sushumna. See Raja Yoga for more details on Kundalini and the chakras. This lotus is in the hand of Isis, the Great Mother. It is a symbol similar to the cup in the hand of Our Lady Babylon. There are also the lotuses in the human body, according to the Hindu system of physiology referred to in the chapter of Dharana, the chakras, or the cups. There is the lotus of 3 petals in the sacrum, in which the Kundalini lies asleep. This lotus is the receptacle of reproductive force, so the sexual energy or libido is stored in that chakra and transmitted to Kundalini. There is also the 6-petal lotus opposite the navel, which receives the forces which nourish the body. I'm going to show this footnote here. So this is what we're doing with these readings. We're actually going into some of these occult books, you know. Some people don't know what books to go into, and some people would never read this information, you know, if it's not read like this. So this helps a lot of people. We're doing these studies together, so thank you for taking part. And then, of course, I do my own videos as well. My readings are just part of what I do. Okay, but that's that. Okay, talking about the chakras as types of cups or vessels that receive energy. There is also a lotus in the solar plexus which receives the nervous forces. The 6-petaled lotus in the heart corresponds to Tiferet and receives those vital forces which are connected with the blood. The 16-petaled lotus opposite the larynx receives the nourishment needed by the breath. The 2-petaled lotus in the pineal gland, now it's talking about the third eye, and we're going through the chakras, the list of chakras in the Hindu system. There are many ways that we're working through the 7 chakras. Now it's talking about the Ajna chakra in the third eye. The 2-petaled lotus of the pineal gland receives the nourishment needed by thought, while above the junction of the cranial sutures is that sublime lotus of 1,001 petals, the crown chakra, which receives the influence from on high, and in which, in the adept, the awakened Kundalini takes her pleasure with the Lord of all. All these lotuses are figured by the magic cup. In man, they are but partly open, or only open to their natural nourishment. In fact, it is better to think of them as closed, as secreting that nourishment, which because of the lack of sun turns to poison for most people. The magic cup must have no lid, yet it must be kept veiled most carefully at all times, except when invocation of the highest is being made. This cup must also be hidden from the profane, from the uninitiated. The wand must be kept secret, lest the profane, fearing it, should succeed in breaking it. The cup, lest wishing to touch it, they should defile it. Yet the sprinkling of its water not only purifies the temple, but blesseth them that are without. Freely must it be poured. But let no one know your real purpose, and let no one know the secret of your strength. Remember Samson, remember Guy Fawkes. Of the methods of increasing understanding, those of the Holy Kabbalah are perhaps the best, provided that the intellect is thoroughly awake to their absurdity, and never allows itself to be convinced. I'm going to reread that. Of the methods of increasing understanding, those of the Holy Kabbalah are perhaps the best, provided that the intellect is thoroughly awake to their absurdity and never allows itself to be convinced. So it's used as a tool, but we're not like becoming dogmatists by we use the Kabbalah, okay? We use it as a structure. The footnote, see the interlude following, which we will read and get when we get to it. Further, meditation of certain sorts is useful, not the strict meditation which endeavors to still the mind, but such a meditation is samasati. See the Equinox 1.5, The Training of the Mind by Alan Bennett. The Equinox 1.2, The Psychology of Hashish. Okay. All right. On the exoteric side, if necessary, the mind should be trained by the study of any well-developed science, such as chemistry or mathematics. The idea of organization is the first step, that of interpretation of the second. The master of the temple, whose grade corresponds to Binah, is sworn to interpret every phenomenon as a particular dealing of God with his own soul. But even the beginner may attempt this practice with advantage. Either a fact fits, we could all try to see every phenomenon as an expression of the divine to us. But even the beginner may attempt this practice with advantage. Either a fact fits in or it does not. If it does not, harmony is broken. And as the universal harmony cannot be broken, the discord must be in the mind of the student, thus showing that he is not in tune with that universal choir. Let him then puzzle out first the great facts, then the little, until one summer, when he is bald and lethargic after lunch, he understands and appreciates the existence of flies. This lack of understanding, I want to read that again. There's so many things that Crowley, okay, Aleister Crowley was an interesting guy. Many people called him wicked and all these things. He definitely wasn't a boring read. So I'm so glad that I'm reading this. And so anyways, So, I want to read that again. Oh man, where was, okay. Let him then puzzle out first the great facts, then the little, until one summer when he's old and bald, and lethargic after lunch, he understands and appreciates the existence of flies. This lack of understanding with which we all begin is so terrible, so pitiful. In this world, there is so much cruelty, so much waste, so much stupidity. The contemplation of the universe must at first almost be pure anguish. It is this fact which is responsible for most of the speculations of philosophy. All this cruelty in the world gets us thinking, how does it make sense? So this gets the higher faculties working because we see all these problems. Medieval philosophers went hopelessly astray because their theology necessitated the reference of all things to the standard of men's welfare. They even became stupid. Bernardin de Saint-Pierre, was it not, said that the goodness of God was such that wherever men had built a great city, he had placed a river to assist them in conveying merchandise. As opposed to understanding that cities were built near a river, it's the backwards logic that you see by a lot of religious people. So, so he said that the goodness of God was such that wherever men had built a great city, he had placed a river to assist them in conveying merchandise. But the truth is that in no way can we imagine the universe as devised. If horses were made for men to ride, were not men made for worms to eat? And there's the argument. If horses were made for humans to ride, and animals were made for us to eat, then are not humans just created for worms to eat, following the same logic? If horses were made for men to ride, were not men made for worms to eat? And so we find once more, and this is all talking about the understanding, and so we find once more that the ego idea must be ruthlessly rooted out before understanding can be attained. There is an apparent contradiction between this attitude and that of the master of the temple. What can possibly be more selfish than this interpretation of everything as the dealing of God with the soul? But it is God who is all, and not any part. And every dealing must thus be an expansion of the soul, a destruction of its own separateness. Every ray of the sun expands the flower of understanding. The surface of the water in the magic cup is infinite. There is no point different from any other point. The footnote, if ye confound the space marks, saying they are one, or saying they are many, then expect the direful judgments of Ra-Hur Kuit. This shall regenerate the world, the little world my sister. These are the words of Nuit, Our Lady of the Stars, of whom Binah is but the troubled reflection. Of which Binah is the troubled reflection. Okay. Thus, ultimately, as the wand is a binding and a limitation, so is the cup an expansion into the infinite. And this is the danger of the cup. It must necessarily be open to all, and yet anything is put into it which is out of proportion, unbalanced, or impure, it takes hurt. And here again we find difficulty with our thoughts. The grossness and stupidity of simple impressions cloud the waters. Emotions trouble the waters. Perceptions are still far from the perfect purity of truth. They cause reflections in the waters. While the tendencies alter the refractive index and break up the light, even consciousness itself is that which distinguishes between the lower and the higher, the waters which are below the firmament from the waters which are above the firmament, that appalling stage in which the great curse of creation, the footnote says, this passage uses the English terms for skandhas or impressions. Since at the best this water is but a reflection, how tremendously important it becomes that it should be still. So since the mind, or the impressions, all these things in the mind, since it's a reflection, how important that it be still so that we can see clearly. The footnote. Oh, if the cup is shaken, the light will be broken up. Therefore the cup is placed upon the altar, which is 4 square, will multiplied by will. Or the will is 2 and 4 is 2 squared. So the 4 is the full development of the dyad in the will. So just keep that in mind, that 4 is 2 squared, 2 times itself. So therefore the cup is placed upon the altar, which is 4 square, will, 2 multiplied by will. The confirmation of the will and the magical oath, its fixation in law. It is easy to see then when water is muddy, and easy to get rid of the mud. But there are many impurities which defy everything but distillation, and even with some must be factioned unto 70 times 7. So even with all the stilling of the mind, the waters of the mind must be distilled, symbolically speaking, so that we could truly see clearly. And this may be fractioned unto 70 times 7. 70 times 7, 77. Interesting. Okay. So, and then the footnote here says, the water in this cup, the latter is also a heart. H-E-A-R-T, the heart, like the heart pumping. Okay. And think of the blood in the cup. So, the water in this cup, the latter is also a heart. So, the cup is also a heart, symbolically speaking. As shown in the transition from the ancient to the modern tarot, where the cups become hearts. So cups, hearts, so you see the cup full of blood and the heart full of blood. This water in this cup, the latter is also a heart, as shown in the transition from the ancient to the modern tarot. The suit hearts in the old cards, it's called cups, is the letter mem, the Hebrew word for water, mem, which has for its tarot trump the hanged man. This hanged man represents the adept hanging by one heel from a gallows, which is in the shape of the letter Dalet, the letter of the Empress, the heavenly Venus in the tarot. His legs form a cross, his arms a triangle, as if by his equilibrium and self-sacrifice he were bringing the light, the divine light, down and establishing it even in the abyss. Elementary. Yeah, Crowley. Elementary as this is, it is a very satisfactory hieroglyph of the great work. Though the student is warned that the obvious sentimental interpretation will have to be discarded as soon as it has been understood. So as soon as you grasp it, it is a very noble illusion, and therefore a very dangerous illusion, to figure oneself as the Redeemer. For of all the illusions in this cup, the subtler and purer they are, the more difficult they are to detect. End of the footnote. There is, however, a universal solvent and harmonizer, a certain dew, which is so pure that a single drop of it cast into the water of the cup will for the time being bring all to perfection. It'll perfect it. This dew is called love. Even as in the case of human love, the whole universe appears perfect to the man or woman who is under its control. So is it, and much more, with the divine love, of which it is now spoken, the divine love, or agape. For human love is an excitement, and not a stilling of the mind. And as it is bound to the individual, only leads to greater trouble in the end. This divine love, on the contrary, is attached to no symbol. It abhors limitation, either in its intensity or its scope, and this is the dew of the stars, of which it is spoken in the holy books. For Nuit, the lady of the stars, is called the continuous one of heaven, and it is that dew which bathes the body of the adept in a sweet-smelling perfume of sweat. In this cup, therefore, Though all things are placed by virtue of this dew, all lose their identity, and therefore this cup is in the hand of Babylon, the lady of the city of the pyramids, wherein no one can be distinguished from any other, wherein no one may sit until he has lost his name. Of that which is in the cup it is also said that it is wine. This is the cup of intoxication. Intoxication means poisoning, and in a particular refers to the poison in which arrows are dipped. The Greek word toion, or bow. Think of the vision of the arrow in Liber 418, and look at the passages in the holy books which speak of the action of the Spirit under the figure of a deadly poison. The poison of the cup. For to each individual thing, attainment means first and foremost the destruction of the individuality. So this knowledge must be a type of death. Each of our ideas must be made to give up the self to the beloved, so that we may eventually give up the self to the beloved in our turn. It will be remembered in the history lection, Liber 61, the book given above to those who wish to become probationers of the AA. It will be remembered in the history lection how the adept who had with smiling faces abandoned their homes, their possessions, could with steady calm and firm correctness abandon the great work itself. For this is the last and greatest projection of the alchemist. The master of the temple has crossed the abyss, has entered the palace of the king's daughter. He has only to utter one word and all is dissolved. But instead of that, he is found hidden in the earth, tending a garden. This mystery is all too complex to be elucidated in these fragments of impure thought. It is a suitable subject for meditation. And that is the chapter on the cup, or the understanding. Again, the altar, the temple, the anointing oil, the wand, the cup, these things all represent deep philosophical principles in the study of magic that we're doing. So once again, this is just doing our reading. This was covering the cup. And I'm going to provide a link for those that want to buy a copy. We're reading Magick, or Book 4. And that is what we're reading. And that was on the magical chalice or cup, or the Holy Grail, and magic. So, and I will see y'all in the next video. And we'll have more, we'll continue our search for deeper spiritual and esoteric wisdom. Okay, we're gonna go looking for spiritual gold here. So thank you everyone that took part in these readings today. And I'm going to have another video, I think, coming out later on, my plan. So I will see y'all in the next video. Thank you so much for joining me, y'all.